The storm came faster than anyone expected, blanketing the small mountain town in a suffocating white that cut off roads, power, and, most dangerously, the possibility of escape. The Garrett family had gathered at their ancestral lodge for the annual winter reunion, a tradition that had survived generations despite bitter rivalries, awkward silences, and the occasional argument over inheritances. This year, however, the tension would reach an entirely new level. Claire Garrett, the eldest daughter, was the first to notice that something was off when a loud knock echoed through the grand foyer just as the fire crackled in the hearth. It was unusual, unexpected visitors in the middle of a blizzard. Before anyone could protest, the storm's fury pressed against the windows, rattling them violently, making it impossible to ignore. Another knock followed, more insistent. Margaret, the matriarch, wrapped in her knitted shawl, frowned. "Who could possibly be out there?" she muttered, her voice brittle with age and unease. Claire approached the door, hesitating. Outside stood a man neither she nor anyone else recognized. He was tall, his coat dusted with snow, eyes glinting with an unsettling intensity. "May I come in?" he asked calmly, though there was something in his tone that made the room shiver. Against their better judgment, and with no choice but to let him in, they ushered him inside. He removed his gloves, revealing perfectly manicured hands that seemed too refined for a traveler caught in a storm. He introduced himself only as Elias, offering no last name, no explanation of how he knew of the gathering. As soon as he stepped over the threshold, a hush fell over the family. The flickering firelight threw long shadows across his face, making him look more like a harbinger than a guest. Dinner began, the air thick with forced conversation and the faint clink of silverware. But the undercurrent of anxiety was palpable. No one dared ask the question that was now pressing at the edges of their minds. Why was he here? Elias sipped his wine slowly, eyes scanning each member of the family as though cataloging their secrets. He finally spoke, his voice smooth but heavy with threat. "Families like yours have histories. Some better, left buried. I know some of those histories, and I know how easily they can be revealed." A cold wind howled outside, rattling the windows. Claire's brother, Thomas, laughed nervously. "Are you some kind of joke? Who even are you?" "I assure you, I am no joke," Elias replied, a faint smirk playing at the corner of his lips. "I simply know things. Dark things. Things that would make this reunion unforgettable if I chose to speak them aloud." The family exchanged uneasy glances. Margaret's hands clenched her shawl, while Aunt Lydia's face drained of color. Only Uncle Peter seemed unnervingly calm, though his foot tapped nervously beneath the table. Another knock came at the door, sharp and deliberate, even as the blizzard's fury battered the windows. The family froze. Claire glanced toward the window, seeing the snow swirl violently against the glass. "There's no one else out there," she said quietly. Elias's eyes gleamed. "Perhaps not," he murmured, leaning in slightly. "But a knock is often a herald, isn't it? A reminder that secrets, once known, cannot be hidden forever." Tension escalated as the night wore on. Every story, every glance, seemed to tremble under the weight of his presence. He spoke casually, almost conversationally, but each sentence contained subtle digs that exposed fractures long ignored, a sibling rivalry that had never healed, a betrayal during the family business's early years, a forgotten affair that had ended disastrously. Claire felt a chill that had nothing to do with the blizzard. The room felt smaller, suffocating. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, her voice trembling despite her efforts to stay composed. Elias leaned back in the chair, his smirk widening. "Because the truth has a way of clawing its way out. And sometimes it needs a push." Margaret finally spoke, her voice quivering. "What do you want from us?" "Only honesty," he said, as though it were the simplest request in the world. "And perhaps a little amusement." As the night deepened, the blizzard intensified. The lights flickered and dimmed, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The grandfather clock struck 11, echoing through the room like a judgment. Each tick was a heartbeat, each chime a reminder of the inescapable reality. They were trapped, with no escape, and the secrets they had buried for decades were about to be unearthed. Elias produced a leather-bound folder from his coat, placing it carefully on the table. He opened it to reveal photographs, letters, and documents, proof of every whispered accusation, hidden betrayal, and long-forgotten misdeed. Thomas leaned forward, horror painted on his face. "Where did you get these?" Elias's eyes scanned the family, resting on each in turn. "That is not important," he said calmly. "What matters is that now, you can either face them, or let them destroy what you think you hold dear." The storm outside roared, rattling the doors and shaking the lodge to its foundations. A lightning strike illuminated the room, casting the room in stark, dramatic contrast. Aunt Lydia gasped, pointing at one photograph, revealing her past involvement in an embezzlement scandal. Margaret's knees buckled as another secret, a long-ago betrayal by her husband, was revealed. Claire's stomach churned at a letter that hinted at a truth she had suspected, but never confirmed. Panic threatened to unravel the family entirely. Voices rose, accusations flew, and old wounds opened with every revelation. And yet, beneath the chaos, Claire noticed something subtle, a pattern in Elias's delivery. He wasn't merely trying to destroy them. He was forcing them to confront truths that had festered too long, truths that could either annihilate or liberate. Hours passed. By the time the clock struck 2, exhaustion had softened the sharp edges of fear. Faces were pale, hands trembled, but there was a strange, tentative calm settling over the lodge. Elias finally closed the folder, standing with deliberate grace. "The storm will pass soon," he said, "and with it, your chance to speak, to heal, or to pretend nothing happened will arrive. Remember this night. Remember how fragile and resilient you are all at once." Before anyone could ask another question, he slipped his coat back on, touched the door handle, and stepped out into the blizzard. The wind swallowed him almost immediately, leaving behind nothing but the echo of the storm and a lodge filled with trembling, enlightened silence. Claire sank into a chair by the fire, watching the snow swirl against the windows. "We'll never forget tonight," she whispered. Her mother nodded silently, eyes glistening with tears that were part grief, part relief. Every family member understood, in their own way, that the blizzard had stripped away the veneer of civility and forced them to face a truth long ignored. By dawn, the storm had spent its fury. The roads were buried, but the air was clear. As the sun peeked over the mountains, illuminating the lodge with a soft, golden glow, the Garrett family emerged from the night's terror forever changed. They had been trapped by snow and fear, confronted by a mysterious arbiter of secrets.